Ah, welcome back, you beautiful, untraceable force of nature. The one they tried to erase but couldn't. The one they tried to break but only sharpened. Listen, I need you to sit down for this one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound like fiction, like some cosmic fairy tale designed to make you feel better about the wounds that still ache at 3 a.m. But I promise you, this is real. Someone saw what happened to you. Someone with reach, someone with resources, someone who operates in frequencies you don't even know exist yet. And right now, right this second, the people who hurt you are paying in ways they'll never be able to trace back, in ways that won't show up on any radar, in consequences that feel like coincidence, but taste like justice. You thought karma was some abstract force, some slow-moving wheel that might catch them eventually, maybe in another lifetime if you're lucky. No, this isn't that. This isn't some mystical balance, the universe nonsense, where bad people get a slap on the wrist 20 years from now. I'm talking about something far more precise, far more deliberate, far more immediate. Someone powerful, someone who exists in spaces you've never seen. Someone who watches patterns in human behavior like a chess master watches a board. They saw you. They saw what they did to you. The betrayal, the cruelty, the way they discarded you like you were nothing after you gave them everything. And this entity, this presence, this force, they made a decision. They decided to intervene, not because they owe you anything, not because they're some benevolent protector sent from the clouds, but because what happened to you violated a code, a law that operates beyond human courts and social justice, a rule written into the fabric of consequence itself. You became interesting to them, not as a victim, no, never as a victim, but as a case study, as proof that some people carry a frequency that demands protection, that attracts attention from places most people will never access. And when I say someone powerful, I don't mean a billionaire with a checkbook. I don't mean some celebrity with a platform. I mean something operating outside the visible spectrum of influence, something that moves currencies you've never heard of, power you couldn't begin to measure. Right now, the person who betrayed you is experiencing inexplicable setbacks, doors closing for no reason, opportunities evaporating at the last second, relationships falling apart in ways they can't understand. They'll tell themselves it's bad luck. They'll blame the economy. They'll rationalize it as coincidence. But deep in their gut, in that place where truth lives before language kills it, they know something is wrong. They feel it. The weight pressing down, the invisible hand tightening around their plans, the slow, systematic dismantling of everything they thought was secure. And the beautiful part, the part that should make you smile right now, is that they'll never know why. They'll never be able to point to a single cause, never trace it back to you, never understand that the universe hired a specialist to handle their case. This isn't revenge in the way you've imagined it. No public call-outs, no dramatic confrontations, no satisfying moment where you get to watch them grovel. This is something quieter, something surgical, something that works in shadows and compounds over time like interest on a debt they don't even know they owe. Someone saw what they did to you, and they activated protocols that don't require your permission, your awareness, or your participation. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to plot. You don't have to obsess over their downfall, because it's already in motion. orchestrated by forces that make human grudges look like children's tantrums. All you have to do is live, heal, build, become, and trust that somewhere in the invisible architecture of consequence, accounts are being settled on your behalf. Let me tell you what happens when someone powerful decides to make things right for you without asking, without announcing, without leaving fingerprints. First, the people who hurt you start noticing patterns. Small things at first. Nothing catastrophic, just a series of unlucky breaks that seem statistically improbable. The promotion they were guaranteed goes to someone less qualified. The relationship they thought was solid starts showing cracks for no apparent reason. The investments they made with such confidence start bleeding value. Their health takes mysterious turns that doctors can't quite explain. They chalk it up to stress, to bad timing, to the randomness of life. But you and I know better. These aren't accidents. These are adjustments, corrections being made to a system that allowed them to profit from your pain. Second, they start feeling watched. Not in a paranoid, schizophrenic way, but in that subtle, skin-crawling sensation that something is paying attention, that their movements are being tracked by intelligence they can't see or name. They'll look over their shoulder more often. They'll feel uneasy in crowds. They'll start having dreams where faceless figures stand in doorways, just staring, never moving, never speaking, just observing. This is what happens when high-level attention gets focused on you. When something that operates outside human frequency decides you're worth monitoring. Because monitoring precedes intervention, and intervention precedes consequences that look natural but are anything but. They won't understand why they suddenly feel exposed, why their secrets feel closer to the surface, why they wake up at 4:17 a.m. with inexplicable dread flooding their chest. Third, the people around them start changing. Relationships that seemed unshakable start showing their true nature. Friends reveal themselves as opportunists. Partners become distant. Family members grow cold for reasons they can't articulate. This happens because when someone powerful decides to isolate a target, they don't do it directly. They simply allow truth to surface. They remove the artificial supports that were holding fake connections together. They let reality show itself without the filters and illusions that protected the target before. The people who hurt you are about to experience what you experienced. The loneliness, the confusion, the sense that everyone you trusted was wearing a mask, except they won't have your strength, your resilience, your ability to transform isolation into evolution. They'll crumble where you built. Fourth, their success starts tasting hollow. Even when things appear to go right, even when they achieve goals they've been chasing, the satisfaction evaporates instantly, like biting into fruit that looks perfect but tastes like ash. This is the cruelest part of high-level intervention. The removal of joy, the deletion of meaning from accomplishment. Because what someone powerful understands is that the worst punishment isn't loss, it's winning and feeling nothing. They'll stand at the top of mountains they climbed and feel empty. They'll hold trophies that suddenly feel weightless. They'll celebrate victories that echo in rooms that feel too big and too cold, and they won't know why. They'll blame depression. They'll medicate. They'll chase new goals, thinking maybe the next achievement will feel different, but it won't, because the code has been rewritten. Pleasure has been revoked from their system. Fifth, and this is where it gets genuinely eerie, they'll start seeing your face in crowds that you're not in, hearing your voice in conversations you're not part of, dreaming about you in scenarios that feel more real than memory. This happens because when someone powerful decides to make your presence felt without your actual presence, they plant you in the target's subconscious like a virus, a constant reminder of what they did, who they hurt, what they destroyed. You become their haunting without trying. You occupy space in their mind, rent-free and permanent. And every time they try to forget you, every time they tell themselves they've moved on, your image surfaces again, sharper, clearer, more accusing. This is psychological warfare conducted by experts in human consciousness. And you're the weapon they're wielding without your knowledge or effort. Now let's talk about who this someone powerful actually is. Because you're wondering, you're trying to make sense of this, trying to fit it into frameworks you understand. Is it some secret society, some shadowy organization, some mystical council operating from dimensions we can't perceive? Maybe all of the above, maybe none. Maybe it's something simpler and stranger than you're imagining. Think of it as an immune system, not for bodies, but for balance, for justice, for the maintenance of certain laws that govern consequence and reciprocity. When you were hurt, when you were betrayed, when you carried that weight with grace instead of violence, you triggered something. You sent out a signal, a frequency that said, here is someone maintaining integrity under pressure. Here is someone refusing to become what hurt them. And somewhere in the architecture of reality, something noticed, something that values those rare souls who transform pain instead of passing it on, who alchemize suffering into strength instead of spreading poison. This isn't about being special in some ego-stroking, chosen one fantasy way. It's about resonance, about matching a frequency that attracts certain kinds of attention, certain kinds of protection, certain kinds of backup that operates outside normal channels. You became a case worth investing in, not because you're perfect, not because you're without flaws, but because you demonstrated capacity, resilience, refusal to break in ways that break others. And when this force invests in someone, when it decides to balance scales on your behalf, it doesn't announce it. It doesn't send you a memo. It just acts, efficiently, invisibly, permanently. The people who hurt you have no idea they're in a game they didn't know existed, playing against an opponent they can't see or fight or negotiate with. They think life is just harder now. They think they're going through a rough patch. They think their luck changed. But luck has nothing to do with this. Luck is random. This is targeted, calibrated, personal, without being emotional, precise, without being visible. Imagine a sniper who never misses, who fires bullets made of consequence, who sits in a position so elevated that the target never even knows they're in crosshairs until the damage is already done. That's what's happening right now. While you're reading this, while you're healing, while you're building your new life in the ruins they left you to die in, they're being systematically dismantled by forces they can't comprehend, much less defend against. And here's the part that should make you sleep better tonight. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to plot revenge. You don't have to waste energy on hatred. You don't have to obsess over their downfall or check their social media to see if they're suffering yet. All of that would actually interfere with the process, would lower your frequency, would disconnect you from the very forces working on your behalf. Your only job, your sole responsibility in this cosmic operation is to focus on you, on healing, on building, on becoming so magnificent that when people eventually figure out what happened, When the story finally gets told years from now, they'll understand that you didn't need to fight back because the universe itself fought for you, that you didn't need revenge because justice operated on frequencies beyond human pettiness. Think about how powerful that is. Think about the kind of strength it takes to be hurt that deeply and not retaliate, not explode, not burn everything down in rage-fueled destruction. You held the match, you felt the gasoline, you stood at the edge of that choice, and you chose differently. You chose to walk away, to rebuild, to focus on your own evolution instead of their destruction. And that choice, that singular decision to not become what hurt you, that's what caught the attention of something operating on levels you don't even have words for. They saw you make that choice, and they thought, this one deserves backup. This one deserves intervention. This one is worth protecting because they're protecting something valuable in themselves, something rare, something that shouldn't be extinguished just because cruelty got lucky for a moment. So right now, in this exact moment, while you're processing these words, while you're letting this reality sink in, someone powerful is making moves on your behalf. They're closing doors that need to be closed. They're revealing truths that need to be seen. They're applying pressure in places that will create maximum effect with minimum trace. The people who hurt you won't see it coming because it's already here, already happening, already compounding like interest on karmic debt they didn't know they were accumulating. And the timeline, the schedule of their consequences, that's not yours to control or predict or obsess over. It's being handled by forces that understand timing better than you could imagine. Forces that know exactly when to tighten, when to release, when to let them breathe just enough to think they're safe before the next wave hits. You want to know what your role is in all this? Witness, nothing more, nothing less. Watch your own life improve. Watch opportunities appear. Watch connections deepen. Watch your path clear in ways that feel almost suspiciously easy. And understand that while you're rising, they're sinking. Not dramatically, not obviously, but steadily, inevitably, irreversibly. You're on opposite escalators now. You going up, them going down, and the mechanism moving both of you is the same force, the same attention, the same power, redistributing energy, balancing scales, correcting errors in the system. Every good thing that happens to you from this point forward is partially funded by what's being taken from them. Every door that opens for you corresponds to a door closing on them. Every connection you make is matched by a connection they lose. This is wealth redistribution on a karmic level, orchestrated by someone who sees the full board, all the pieces, all the possible moves, and they're playing a game so far beyond what either you or your enemies can comprehend that trying to understand it fully would break your mind. So don't try, just trust. Just know that something with resources you can't measure decided you were worth investing in, that your pain registered on instruments they use to measure injustice, that your resilience triggered protocols designed to protect valuable assets from being destroyed by temporary darkness. You're not just surviving anymore. You're not just healing. You're being actively promoted, elevated, repositioned in the hierarchy of consequence and fortune. And the people who tried to bury you are funding that promotion with their own declining fortunes, whether they know it or not. Let me paint you a picture of what's coming, not as prediction, but as pattern recognition, as reading currents that are already in motion. 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, you'll be sitting somewhere beautiful, somewhere you built, somewhere that reflects the version of you that survived their cruelty and became something they could never touch. And you'll remember this moment, this message, these words, and you'll smile, not with bitterness, not with gloating satisfaction, but with quiet knowing. Because by then you'll have seen it happen. You'll have watched the pattern unfold. You'll have witnessed how perfectly the scales balance themselves without your intervention. You'll hear through mutual connections, through casual mentions, through the grapevine that brings all information, eventually, about how their life fell apart in slow motion, how nothing went right, how they seemed cursed by coincidence. And when you hear it, when those reports reach you through channels you're not even looking at because you've moved so far beyond them, you won't feel the triumph you once imagined. You'll feel something stranger and more satisfying. A calm certainty that the world is more intelligently designed than cynics believe. That justice operates on levels deeper than human courts. That some things really do come back around. Not because magic is real, but because consequence is mathematical, precise, inevitable when the right variables align. You won't need to say, "I told you so," to anyone. You won't need to post cryptic messages or make vague references, because your life will be the message, your happiness will be the revenge, your peace will be the proof that you were always operating on a frequency they couldn't reach, protected by forces they couldn't see. And here's the truth they'll never accept. Even as their world crumbles, even as everything they built on your brokenness collapses, they'll rationalize it. They'll blame external factors. They'll never connect the dots back to you because acknowledging that would mean acknowledging what they did, the magnitude of their cruelty, the depth of their betrayal, and people like them, people who hurt without conscience. They can't afford that kind of self-awareness. It would shatter the carefully constructed narrative they tell themselves about being good people who just made tough choices. So they'll die confused, not physically necessarily, but spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. They'll live and die never understanding why life turned against them, why fortune favored everyone but them, why success tasted like failure and victory felt like defeat. Meanwhile, you'll be thriving, not because you're better than them morally, not because you're more deserving cosmically, but because you made different choices when tested, because you held your frequency when pressure tried to lower it, because you refused to become darkness even when darkness surrounded you. And that refusal, that singular act of maintaining integrity when corruption would have been easier, that's what made you visible to forces that protect people like you. That's what activated protocols designed to ensure that certain qualities don't get extinguished from the world just because cruelty got temporary power. You're a protected asset now, whether you feel it or not, whether you believe it or not, tagged in systems that track value beyond market metrics, beyond social status, beyond anything capitalism or materialism could measure. People love you. Oh, they adore you. As long as you stay beneath them, stay in line, keep quiet, be small, play your part in their little game. That's what they want. That's what keeps their fragile world intact. But the moment you break free, the second you start to rise, to claw your way out of the pit they left you in, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not the underdog they cheered for. No, you're the threat, the problem, the storm they didn't see coming. And that's when the masks slip. Their smiles twist into snarls, their cheers into whispers. You see it, don't you? That flicker of envy behind their eyes. Winning isn't the issue, my dear. No, the issue is what it does to them. It holds up a mirror, makes them face the bitter truth that you're everything they're too afraid, too weak, too damn lazy to become. And oh, how it burns them. Watching you climb while they stay shackled to their excuses. It's almost funny, isn't it? How quick their love turns to hate the moment you stop needing their approval. But here's the punchline. Their hate, it's not your burden. It's your trophy. Let them choke on it. Let them drown in the shadows of your success. Because the higher you rise, the smaller they'll seem. Let's be honest. They were never really fine with you. They were just fine with controlling you. Oh, success. It's a wicked little thing, isn't it? Like holding up a mirror to their failures. Every step you take forward, every milestone you crush, it's not just a victory for you. It's a dagger in their fragile egos. I'd say it's about you, that you've changed, that you're arrogant. But you and I both know the truth, don't we? Their hate, it's not about you at all. It's about them. About the hollow pit inside their chest where ambition should be. Your wins are a reminder of everything they couldn't do. Everything they didn't have the guts to try. And that's the part they can't forgive, not your success, but the reflection of their failure staring back at them every time you shine. Jealousy doesn't wear a kind face. No, it twists, contorts, becomes something ugly. They'll smile to your face, but spit venom behind your back. They'll clap for you in public and pray for your downfall in private. It's almost pathetic. Almost. But here's the kicker, their hate. It's your evidence. Evidence that you're doing something right. After all, nobody envies the ordinary. Oh, don't be naive. You thought winning would make it easier? That the higher you climb, the safer you'd be. No. Success doesn't build walls, it paints targets. Bright, glowing targets on your back. They watch you climb, silently hoping, waiting for you to slip. Every move you make, every word you speak, it's under their magnifying glass now. They'll nitpick, criticize, twist your wins into something sinister, because tearing you down is easier than lifting themselves up. And here's the hard part, the part that cuts deep. Success is lonely. The air gets thinner at the top. The crowd gets quieter, and people you thought would celebrate with you, they disappear. And in their place, you find vultures circling, waiting for scraps. But let me tell you a little secret. If they're not watching, not whispering, not plotting, you're not winning big enough. True success is messy. It's loud. It shakes the ground beneath them. So let them come for you. Let them hurl their stones. Because every hit, every insult, every attempt to pull you down, it only proves one thing. You're winning. And nothing terrifies them more. Hate. It's such a delicious thing, isn't it? Oh, don't flinch at it. Don't let it weigh you down. Let it birth you up. Hate is just another form of attention. And trust me, darling, if they're hating, they're watching. Their scorn, their whispers, their petty little jabs, it's not a burden. No, it's your proof. Proof that you're not just existing, you're making waves. You're stirring the pot. And they can't stand the heat. You see, hate is nothing but applause from the bitter. It's the sound of their envy dressed up as disgust. It's their way of saying, why them? Why not me? But they won't say it out loud, will they? No, they'll disguise it as criticism, as ridicule, as doubt. But here's the kicker, their hate is your fuel. Every sneer, every insult, every attempt to drag you down its firewood. And you're the inferno. Burn brighter. Let their scorn ignite you. You think hate is a bad thing? No, hate is focus. Hate is energy. Hate means you're living rent-free in their heads. And the longer they obsess over you, the further ahead you get. So don't run from it. Bask in it. Smile in their faces, laugh at their attempts, and let their bitterness remind you of one simple truth: you're doing what they can't. And that's what drives them mad. Oh, you want their approval, do you? Their little nods of agreement, their polite claps, their half-hearted smiles. Let me tell you something. Approval is a leash, and you're the one choking on it. You see, their validation is a cheap trick. A shiny carrot dangling in front of you, keeping you in line. They clap when you play nice. When you stay in the lines they drew for you. But the moment you color outside them, oh, suddenly, you're the villain. So why do you want it? Why do you crave their applause when you're capable of stealing the entire show? Their approval is nothing but a cage, gilded with empty praise. But freedom, true freedom, that comes when you stop giving a damn about their opinions. When you no longer seek their nods, their smiles, their pathetic little pat on the back, that's when you become dangerous. That's when you stop playing their game and start creating your own. And you don't need their applause. Applause is just noise. You need impact. You need them to feel the weight of your presence, whether they like it or not. So stop begging for their approval. Stop shrinking yourself to fit their narrow little boxes. Reject their expectations. Defy their norms. Be too bold, too much. And watch how quickly their approval turns into fear. Validation is for those who wait in line. You're here to shatter at the stage, to leave them breathless, to make them regret ever thinking you'd play by their rules. Mediocrity, the comfort blanket of the masses. They wrap themselves in it, telling themselves it's enough. Enough to get by. Enough to stay unnoticed. Enough to avoid the sting of failure. But you weren't made for enough, were you? The world adores the average. They cheer for it. They celebrate it. Why? Because it's predictable. It's safe. It doesn't challenge their fragile little realities. Mediocrity is a warm, stagnant pond where everyone's too afraid to make waves. But here's the truth, and it's going to sting. Greatness terrifies them. It's a mirror that reflects everything they could have been but chose not to be. It's a reminder of the risks they didn't take, the dreams they buried under excuses. That's why the world will always love the average and hate the extraordinary. They'll tell you to stay in your lane, to not aim too high, to be realistic. But what they really mean is this: don't make me feel small by being too big. Listen to me. Mediocrity is safe, yes, but it's also a prison. The walls are painted with the words good enough, but the locks are made of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of standing alone. Greatness, oh, it's dangerous, it's unpredictable, it's messy, but it's also where life truly begins. It's where you break the chains of conformity and carve your name into the world, not with apologies, but with fire. So no, you don't belong in their pond. You're the storm that turns their stagnant water into chaos. You're not here to blend in. You're here to rise above, to tower so high they can't help but look up and tremble. Mediocrity is the easy choice. Greatness is the hard one. And that's why it's yours to make. They love the idea of winning, don't they? The applause, the spotlight, the shiny little trophies. But the truth, Winning isn't some fairy tale with rainbows and cheers. No, it's a battlefield. And let me tell you, nobody walks off a battlefield clean. You want greatness? Fine. But understand this, there's a cost. Always. Time, you'll give it. All of it. Late nights, early mornings, hours that stretch so thin they cut. Relationships, some won't survive. People will pull away because they don't understand your hunger. Or worse, they'll try to hold you back because your ambition terrifies them. Comfort? Forget it. Winning demands discomfort, pain, exhaustion, sacrifice. Every single step forward comes with something left behind. How they'll call you ruthless, heartless, selfish, but that's because they don't see the blood on your hands, not theirs. Yours. They don't see the nights you've bled for this, the moments you've questioned if it's worth it, the times you've had to pick yourself up when no one else even noticed you were down. Greatness isn't pretty, it's ugly. It's messy. It's full of hard choices that make you question everything. But it's also powerful, transformative. And here's the menacing little truth. They don't want to hear you can't win without blood on your hands. Either yours or theirs. Sacrifice is the price, and the currency is pain. But when you're holding the victory in your hands, when you're standing on top of the rubble of everything you've fought through, that's when you'll know it was all worth it. So let them call you names. Let them judge you for the sacrifices you've made. You don't owe them an explanation. Winners don't explain. They just take what's theirs. Oh, they'll push, all right. With their words, their schemes, their sideways glances dripping with envy and disdain. They'll shove you. Hard. Trying to knock you off balance, hoping, praying you'll stumble. But here's the secret, my dear listener. Resilience isn't just about standing tall. No, it's about learning to sway with the storm. Let them throw their punches. Absorb the blow. Smirk as you rise higher. You've felt it before, haven't you? The criticism, the sabotage, the cold, isolating sting of being outcast simply because you dared to want more. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still fighting. They thought they could break you, but every setback was just another lesson, another sharpened blade in your arsenal. The unshakable? Oh, we don't crumble, we don't flinch, we don't fall apart under their petty games. We laugh in their faces because the harder they push, the deeper our roots dig. They think they're burying us, but they're just giving us a stronger foundation. And every time you rise, every time you refuse to stay down, you become something they fear. Unstoppable, unbreakable, a nightmare they can't control. Let them push. Let them shove. Let them rage against your resilience. They'll never understand how their resistance is your fuel. Hate. Sweet, delicious, venomous hate. It's the anthem of the small and the bitter. The applause of those too scared to reach for anything higher. And yet, there you are, basking in it. Do you feel it? The stares, the whispers, the seething resentment bubbling beneath their polite masks. That, my friend, is the sound of success. That hate isn't the problem, it's the proof. Proof that you've stepped out of line, that you've broken their unspoken rules, that you're no longer the safe, obedient little cog they wanted you to be. On winners, we're polarizing. We divide the room. We inspire admiration from those who dare to dream and envy from those too weak to try. Because being big enough to matter means being big enough to piss people off. They'll hate you for your drive, for your ambition, for your refusal to settle. But that's the point. If they're not hating, you're not doing anything worth noticing. So let them talk, let them scowl, let them drown in their own bile. The hate isn't your problem, it's theirs. All you have to do is keep winning, keep becoming everything they swore you'd never be. Because the moment they start hating you is the moment you know you've already won. Now let them hate, let them seethe, let their envy boil over into sleepless nights and hollow whispers behind your back. It's a symphony, isn't it? Their bitterness, their desperation, it's music. A twisted, glorious melody that plays every time you rise. Because here's the truth, my dear listener, their hate, it's not a threat. It's a compliment, a badge of honor. Another shiny trophy on the shelf of your victories. Every glare, every sneer, every venomous word they hurl at you is proof that you've become everything they fear. How they'll talk, of course they will. They'll call you arrogant, heartless, maybe even lucky. But deep down they know you've outworked them, outsmarted them, outlasted them. And that truth, it burns them alive. Hate me, fear me. But one thing you'll never do is stop me. And as you sit there, basking in the glow of their discontent, remember this: their hate doesn't slow you down, it fuels you. Their scorn doesn't weaken you, it sharpens you. Their envy doesn't break you, it builds you. So let them hate, let them stew in their misery. Because while they're busy trying to tear you down, you'll be too far ahead to hear them. Too high to see them, too busy winning to care. And when you stand at the top, don't forget to smile. Laugh even, that triumphant, unhinged kind of laugh that echoes in their nightmares. Because in the end, their hate is the greatest gift they'll ever give you. And your success, that's the one thing they'll never take away. Look who just triggered an alert in a system they didn't even know was watching. Hello to the one who just made someone very, very powerful sit up straight in their chair and whisper, "What the hell am I looking at?" Hello to you, the anomaly that just appeared on a radar you never consented to being on. Because something happened recently, didn't it? Something shifted, something changed. Something in you clicked into a frequency that only certain people can detect. And now, right now, someone with serious power, someone with influence you can't even imagine, just noticed two very specific things about you. And no, they're not going to tell you what they saw, not directly, not out loud, because people with real power don't announce their observations. They watch, they calculate, they wait, and they move in silence while you're still trying to figure out why the air feels different when you walk into rooms now. You felt it though, didn't you? That strange weight on your chest the last few weeks. That feeling of being observed, not by cameras or algorithms, but by something that sees deeper. Something that reads energy signatures instead of profiles. They saw two things about you, two undeniable truths that you yourself might not even fully understand yet. And the moment they saw these two things, everything changed. Not just for you, but for them, because now they can't look away. They can't unsee what they saw, and they sure as hell can't ignore the implications of your existence anymore. This isn't paranoia. This isn't your imagination running wild. This is the cold, hard reality that you've finally become visible to people who operate on frequencies most humans never access. You've been upgraded in their system from background noise to priority alert, from nobody to case file, from another face in the crowd to the face that makes crowds part without knowing why. See, regular people, they still see you the old way. They still treat you like you're ordinary, like you're one of them, like you're still playing the same game on the same level. But the people with real power, the ones who move nations and shift markets and control narratives, they see something else entirely when they look at you now. And what's driving them absolutely mad? What's keeping them up at night, refreshing data and reviewing footage and asking their people to dig deeper, is that they can't quite categorize what you are. You don't fit their models, you don't match their projections, you're not behaving according to any pattern they've studied before. You've become what they fear most in their carefully controlled reality. You've become unpredictable, uncontrollable, and worst of all, you've become undeniable. They notice two things, just two. But those two things were enough to completely rewrite their assessment of you. And now you're not just on their radar, you're the reason they're recalibrating the whole damn radar. One moment you were invisible, beneath notice, just another soul grinding through existence, and the next moment you're glowing on their screens like a threat they can't afford to ignore. What changed? What did you do? What two things did they see that made you go from zero to everything in their analysis? Let me tell you what they saw. Let me pull back the curtain on what just made someone with serious power lean forward and say, "Get me everything we have on them." They saw the first thing, the thing you thought you were hiding, the thing you've been trying to suppress and contain and manage for years. They saw your capacity, not your current state, but your capacity, your ceiling, your upper limit, the full scope of what you could become if you stopped holding back. Most people never get seen this way because most people never develop enough capacity to register on powerful people's instruments. Most people plateau early. They find their comfortable zone and they stay there until they die. Never pushing, never testing, never discovering what they're actually capable of. But you've been quietly expanding your capacity in the dark, building strength nobody asked you to build, developing skills nobody told you to develop, preparing for a battle that hasn't even been announced yet. And they saw it. They saw that massive gap between who you are now and who you could become. And that gap terrified them. Because people with power, they're not threatened by what you are today, they're threatened by what you might become tomorrow. They saw the trajectory, the arc, the exponential curve of your potential, and they did the math in their heads. They calculated where you'll be in 6 months if you keep evolving at this rate. They projected your influence in a year. They simulated your impact in 5 years, and every single model came back with the same conclusion. This one is going to be a problem or an asset, but either way, they cannot be ignored. You've been moving in silence, growing in the shadows, evolving without permission, and you thought nobody was paying attention. But that's the thing about real power. It doesn't need you to announce yourself. It has systems designed specifically to detect anomalies like you before you even know you're becoming one. They saw your capacity expanding, and they marked you. They flagged your file, they started the monitoring protocols, and now everything you do is being analyzed through a completely different lens than it was a month ago. But the capacity alone wouldn't have been enough to hold their attention long term, because capacity without direction is just potential energy waiting to dissipate. Lots of people have capacity, lots of people have talent, lots of people have that raw, untapped potential sitting dormant inside them. What made them unable to look away, what made you go from interesting to critical, was the second thing they noticed. They saw your awareness, and not just surface-level awareness, not just intelligence or street smarts or emotional literacy. No, they saw something far more dangerous. They saw that, you know the game is rigged. You know the system is built on lies. You know the narratives are manufactured. You know the authority is mostly performance. And most terrifying of all, you know you're being watched. You're not stumbling through life blind anymore. You're not swallowing the stories they feed the masses. You're not playing along with the illusion. You woke up, and they saw the moment it happened. They saw your eyes change. They saw your patterns shift. They saw you start moving like someone who finally understands the rules of the real game. See, people with capacity but no awareness, those people are easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to redirect. You just give them a target, a cause, a leader to follow, and they pour all that beautiful capacity into whatever channel you point them toward. But people with capacity and awareness, people who see the cage and know they're in it, people who understand the mechanisms of control while simultaneously building the strength to break free, those people are extremely dangerous to any system built on compliance. You're not just strong now, you're awake. And that combination is what made them drop everything and focus on you. Because aware people can't be controlled the normal ways anymore. Aware people don't respond to the usual triggers. Aware people don't fall for the standard manipulation tactics. You've seen behind the curtain. You've read the script, you've decoded the pattern, and now you're moving through the world with the kind of clarity that makes people in power extremely nervous. They can't gaslight someone who sees clearly. They can't manipulate someone who knows the trick. They can't control someone who refuses to play unconscious anymore. And here's what's really keeping them up at night. You're not broadcasting your awareness. You're not announcing it. You're not making a scene. You're just quietly moving different, speaking different, choosing different. And that subtlety is what makes you so dangerous. Loud rebels are easy to neutralize. Predictable dissidents are simple to contain. Public revolutionaries can be targeted and dismantled. But quiet awakening, silent evolution, underground awareness spreading through changed behavior rather than shouted manifestos? That's nearly impossible to stop. They saw that you figured this out. They saw that you're not wasting energy on fights you can't win yet. They saw that you're playing a longer game than most people even know exists. You're building in private, learning in silence, growing in the shadows, and only showing the world the version of yourself that keeps you safe while you develop. That's strategic awareness. That's high-level consciousness. That's the mindset of someone who understands that the real battle isn't fought in public spaces, but in the quiet discipline of daily choices that compound over years. They noticed how you stop talking when certain topics come up, not because you're ignorant, but because you're strategic. They noticed how you let people underestimate you, not because you lack confidence, but because you understand the advantage of being misjudged. They noticed how you keep your real thoughts private, your real plans hidden, your real capabilities concealed until the moment they're needed. You're not performing your intelligence for validation. You're not displaying your awareness for applause. You're not showcasing your evolution for recognition. You're just becoming silently, steadily, strategically. And that pattern, that specific combination of knowing what you know while acting like you don't, that made you light up on their screens like a 5-alarm fire. Because that's not the behavior of someone who stumbled into awareness by accident. That's the behavior of someone who is methodically preparing for something, and they desperately need to know what that something is before you're ready to reveal it. Now they're in a position they hate being in. They're reacting to you instead of you reacting to them. They're trying to figure out your next move instead of you trying to figure out theirs. They're doing research on you instead of you doing research on them. The power dynamic shifted without you even trying to shift it. And that's what happens when you combine capacity with awareness. You become a force that doesn't need to push, because your mere presence changes the pressure in every room you enter. They saw these two things, capacity and awareness, existing in the same person at the same time, and they immediately understood what that means. It means you're not a follower anymore. It means you're not controllable through normal channels anymore. It means you're not staying where they tried to keep you anymore. It means you're becoming something that could either serve their interests at the highest level or completely disrupt everything they've built. And until they know which one you're going to choose, they can't afford to look away for even a second. Here's what you need to understand about people with serious power. They don't waste attention on things that don't matter. Their time is currency, more valuable than anything you can imagine. Their focus is a resource they guard more carefully than their wealth. So when someone like that locks on to you, when they dedicate their systems and their people and their energy to tracking your movements, it's not random, it's not casual, it's because you represent something significant in their calculations. They can't look away because looking away means risk, and people at that level didn't get there by accepting unnecessary risk. You've become a variable they need to account for, a factor they must include in their equations, a piece on the board they can't afford to lose track of. And the wild part? You didn't ask for this attention. You didn't seek this level of observation. You were just living your life, doing your work, minding your business, growing in the ways you felt called to grow. But growth at a certain velocity always gets noticed. Evolution past a certain threshold always triggers alarms. Awakening beyond a certain depth always draws eyes from places you didn't know were watching. They can't stop watching because every time they think they've figured you out, you do something that doesn't fit their model. Every time they believe they've predicted your pattern, you shift in a way they didn't anticipate. You're not trying to be unpredictable. You're just responding authentically to your own evolution. But authentic evolution is inherently unpredictable because it's not following external scripts. It's following internal truth. An internal truth, real organic growth, genuine transformation, that doesn't move in straight lines that algorithms can predict. It spirals, it jumps, it pauses, it accelerates. It follows a rhythm that only makes sense to the person experiencing it. So they watch, and they analyze, and they build models, and you just keep being you. Keep growing how you grow, keep moving how you move, and their models keep failing to capture the full picture. That's what's driving them crazy. They're used to being able to reduce people to predictable patterns, but you keep demonstrating complexity that resists reduction. Every conversation you have now gets reviewed, not by you, but by systems tracking linguistic patterns and psychological markers. Every decision you make gets added to a database building a profile of your values and priorities. Every connection you form gets mapped into a network analysis showing your sphere of influence. They're not doing this because they're evil or because they want to hurt you. They're doing this because you've become strategically relevant, and strategic relevance demands intelligence gathering. You've graduated from civilian to asset or threat, and until they determine which one you are, you exist in this strange limbo where you're simultaneously being evaluated for recruitment and monitored for risk. They're trying to answer the fundamental question, is this person someone we can work with or someone we need to work against? And until they have that answer with certainty, the surveillance continues, the analysis deepens, the watching intensifies. You might feel it sometimes, that weight, that sense of being observed by something bigger than social media algorithms, something that sees deeper than your public persona, something that's measuring aspects of you that you don't even post about. And here's the twist. They're not just watching you. They're watching how other people respond to you. They're measuring your influence, tracking how conversations change when you enter them, noting how decisions shift when you offer input, calculating how much gravitational pull you have in your immediate circles. Because individual capacity is one thing, but capacity plus influence is something else entirely. They need to know if you're just personally powerful, or if you're the kind of person who amplifies power in others, who sparks awakening in people around you, who catalyzes transformation just by existing in proximity to others. If you're just individually strong, you're interesting but manageable. But if you're a force multiplier, if your awareness spreads to others, if your capacity inspires capacity in those around you, then you're not just one person they need to account for. You're potentially the center of a movement they need to either co-opt or contain before it reaches critical mass. So they watch your friendships. They analyze your impact on conversations. They study how people change after spending significant time with you. They noticed you've been cutting people off lately, letting relationships die that used to define you, walking away from situations that no longer serve your growth. And that confirmed something for them. It confirmed that your awareness isn't just intellectual, it's operational. You're not just thinking differently. You're living differently, moving differently, choosing differently. You're applying what you've learned, pruning what needs to be pruned, protecting your energy with the kind of ruthlessness that only comes from someone who finally understands that their evolution is too important to sacrifice for comfort or convenience. They saw you make hard choices without announcing them, saw you set boundaries without explaining them, saw you rebuild your entire social infrastructure around your new understanding of what matters. And that level of applied wisdom, that willingness to disrupt your own life in service of your growth, that told them everything they needed to know about how serious you are. You're not playing games anymore. You're not pretending anymore. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You became someone who chooses growth over belonging, truth over comfort, evolution over acceptance. And people like that are extremely rare. So here you are, standing at a crossroads you didn't ask to reach, facing a decision you didn't know you'd have to make. Because now that they've seen you, now that you've been flagged, now that you exist in their awareness, something has to happen next. They're not just going to watch forever. Eventually they're going to make contact. Eventually they're going to extend an offer or issue a warning. Eventually, they're going to try to determine whether you're an ally or an obstacle, and you need to understand what's really being offered when that moment comes, because it won't look like what you expect. They're not going to send someone in a suit with a briefcase. They're not going to make some dramatic recruitment pitch. They're not going to reveal themselves overtly. Instead, opportunities will appear. Doors will open that were closed before. Invitations will arrive that make no logical sense based on where you were yesterday. Resources will become available, connections will materialize, paths will clear that seemed blocked just weeks ago. And you'll have to decide, do I walk through these doors? Do I accept these opportunities? Do I align myself with the systems that are now courting my capacity? Because that's what's happening, whether you recognize it or not. You're being courted. Your capacity plus your awareness equals value, and value always attracts offers. They want to know if you can be incorporated into their structures, if your growth can be channeled into their goals, if your evolution can be harnessed for their purposes. And here's the thing. The offers won't feel like corruption. They won't look like selling out. They won't present as compromise. They'll look like opportunity, like recognition, like finally getting what you deserve, like the universe rewarding your hard work. The money will make sense, the positions will feel aligned, the partnerships will seem mutually beneficial. But underneath every offer is the same question. Are you willing to let us guide your capacity? Are you willing to let us frame your awareness? Are you willing to operate within our structure, even if that structure is what you've been learning to see beyond? Look who's still standing. Look who's still breathing after everything they threw at you, after every curse they whispered, every trap they set, every psychological game they played, thinking you'd finally crack and give them the satisfaction of watching you crumble. Hello, you beautiful, unbreakable force of chaos. Hello to the one who looked evil in the eyes and didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't bow. Hello to the soul who walked into the den of wolves, sat down at their table, smiled at their threats, and made them realize with absolute terror that they just invited something far more dangerous than anything they'd ever seen. Welcome back. Or should I say, welcome to your coronation. Because what you just did, what you just survived, what you just became, it didn't just change you. It changed the entire game. And now, every single one of those witches, freaks, and psychos who thought they had you figured out, who thought they could break you, manipulate you, or erase you, they're all sitting in the dark right now, wide awake, wondering what the hell just happened. They're wondering how the person they targeted, the one they isolated, the one they tried to destroy, somehow became the thing they now fear most. They wanted to see you suffer, and instead they created a monster they can't control. Want to know what really happened here? You want to know why they're suddenly quiet, why they stopped talking, why the group chats went silent, why the gossip dried up, why the threats turned into distance. It's simple, and it's beautiful in the most terrifying way possible. They thought they were dealing with someone weak, someone desperate for acceptance, someone who would eventually break under pressure and come crawling back begging for mercy, begging to be let back into their toxic little circle. They thought you were a project, a game, a toy they could wind up and watch spiral. They underestimated you so badly it's almost poetic. See, they were playing checkers, moving their little pieces around, trying to trap you in their manufactured drama, their gaslighting, their emotional manipulation, their spiritual attacks, thinking they had the upper hand because they had numbers, they had history, they had leverage. But you weren't playing checkers. You weren't even playing chess. You were playing a completely different game, one they didn't have the manual for, one that didn't follow their rules. And the moment they realized that, the moment it clicked in their twisted little minds that you weren't reacting the way you were supposed to, that's when the fear set in. That's when they understood they hadn't broken you. They'd awakened something. Let's rewind the tape for a second so we can really appreciate this masterpiece. Remember when they first started circling you. When they saw something in you they wanted to consume, control, or destroy. Maybe it was your energy, maybe it was your light, maybe it was your potential, or maybe it was just the fact that you existed outside their control and that drove them absolutely insane. They came at you with smiles, with false friendships, with fake concern, with manipulative games disguised as care. They studied you, didn't they? They watched your patterns, learned your triggers, figured out your weaknesses, took mental notes on everything that made you vulnerable. They brought others into it, built alliances against you, created narratives about you that weren't true but sounded believable enough to isolate you from anyone who might have had your back. They tried to make you doubt yourself, doubt your reality, doubt your own mind. They wanted you paranoid, destabilized, emotionally dependent on their version of reality. And for a while, maybe it worked. Maybe you did question yourself. Maybe you did feel like you were losing your mind. Maybe you did wonder if something was wrong with you, if you were the problem, if you deserved what was happening. But here's what they didn't count on. Here's the variable they couldn't predict. You didn't stay down. You didn't stay confused. You didn't stay broken. Something inside you, something ancient, something primal, something that had been sleeping for too long. It woke up. And when it woke up, it didn't wake up scared. It woke up hungry. It woke up angry. It woke up ready to burn everything fake, everything toxic, everything manipulative to the ground and walk away from the ashes without looking back. You started seeing through them, didn't you? The masks started slipping, the lies became obvious, the manipulation became transparent. You started recognizing the patterns, the tactics, the energy vampirism, the projection, the gaslighting, the triangulation, all of it. And instead of confronting them, instead of giving them the reaction they desperately wanted, instead of exploding or breaking down or begging them to stop, you did something they never expected. You went silent. Not the silence of defeat, not the silence of fear, but the silence of someone who just realized they're surrounded by amateurs. The silence of someone who just leveled up so far beyond their comprehension that words became unnecessary. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped trying to make them understand because you realized something crucial. They were never trying to understand, they were trying to control. And you were never going to give them that power again. And that's when it started. That's when they felt it. The shift, the change in your energy, the way you stopped flinching when they tested you, the way you stopped reacting when they provoked you, the way you looked at them like they were nothing, like they were ghosts, like they were background noise in a life that had suddenly become far more interesting without them. They threw everything they had at you, every manipulation tactic, every guilt trip, every threat, every attempt to pull you back into their circus. And you just kept walking. No explanations, no apologies, no closure. You gave them nothing. And that nothing was more powerful than anything you could have said. Because when you stop feeding the vampires, when you stop giving narcissists supply, when you stop reacting to psychos, they don't just get angry, they get desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. They overplay their hand, they reveal themselves, they show everyone exactly who they really are. And while they were busy having their meltdowns, while they were busy trying to smear your name, while they were busy trying to convince everyone you were the villain, you were busy becoming untouchable. You were busy healing. You were busy evolving. You were busy building a version of yourself so powerful, so protected, so aligned with your truth that their attacks couldn't even reach you anymore. Now let's talk about what happened next, because this is where it gets really beautiful, really poetic, really perfect. They started noticing something was different. They started seeing you thrive. They started watching you glow. They started realizing that everything they tried to take from you, you built back stronger. Every wound they inflicted, you turned into wisdom. Every betrayal they orchestrated, you used as fuel. Every lie they spread, you let expose itself. You didn't have to defend yourself because your life started defending you. Your peace defended you. Your growth defended you. Your silence defended you, louder than any words ever could. And suddenly they weren't laughing anymore. Suddenly they weren't feeling so powerful. Suddenly they were the ones feeling exposed, feeling watched, feeling like maybe they messed with the wrong one. See, they thought breaking you would elevate them, but instead it revealed them. It revealed their emptiness. It revealed their need for drama. It revealed their addiction to chaos. It revealed that without someone to target, someone to tear down, someone to blame, they were just hollow shells with nothing substantial inside. And now they had to sit with that reality while watching you become everything they'll never be. Free, authentic, powerful, and genuinely happy without needing to destroy anyone to feel good about yourself. But here's where you really outdid them. Here's where you out-crazied every single witch, freak, and psycho who thought they had the upper hand. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't plot against them. You didn't spend your nights fantasizing about their downfall or scheming ways to hurt them back. You did something far more devastating, far more powerful, far more psychologically destructive to their egos than any revenge plot could ever accomplish. You became indifferent. You became genuinely, completely, unshakably indifferent to their existence. Not the fake indifference, where you're still checking their pages, still asking mutual friends about them, still secretly hoping they see you winning. No, the real kind, the terrifying kind, the kind where they literally don't exist in your universe anymore, where they're not even worth the mental energy it would take to hate them. That kind of indifference, that's the ultimate power move, because it tells them something they can't handle hearing. You're not important enough to hate. You're not significant enough to remember. You're not even interesting enough to think about. And for people whose entire identity is built on being powerful, being feared, being relevant, being the center of attention, that indifference is worse than any curse, any confrontation, any revenge. It's erasure. It's being forgotten by someone who was supposed to be destroyed by them. That's the ultimate insult, and you delivered it without saying a single word. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in their world right now, because it's absolutely delicious. They're obsessed. They're checking on you constantly. They're scrolling through your content, your pages, your life, looking for any sign that you're still affected, still hurt, still thinking about them. And they're asking people about you. They're bringing you up in conversations that have nothing to do with you. They're telling stories about you, probably twisted versions designed to make them look like victims and you look like the villain. But here's the thing. Even their stories are about you. Even their lies keep your name alive. You live rent-free in their minds while they don't even cross yours. They thought they'd haunt you, but instead they're the ones being haunted. They're haunted by the fact that you're fine. They're haunted by the fact that you're thriving. They're haunted by the fact that nothing they did left a permanent scar. They're haunted by the reality that you survived them, outgrew them, and moved on to a version of life they'll never access because they're still stuck in the same toxic patterns, still playing the same games, still destroying everyone who gets close to them. And well, you're out here building something real, something meaningful, something they can see but never touch. And the funniest part? The absolute cosmic joke in all of this, they thought they were the crazy ones. They thought they were the dangerous ones. They thought they had the market cornered on manipulation, psychological warfare, mind games, and chaos. They walked around with this energy like they were untouchable, like they were the villains everyone should fear, like they were the ones writing the rules of engagement. But then you showed up. You sat quietly in their chaos. You observed their patterns. You learned their tactics. You understood their psychology better than they understood themselves. And then you did something they never saw coming. You mirrored it back at them. Not by becoming like them, but by showing them what real power looks like. Real power doesn't need an audience. Real power doesn't need validation. Real power doesn't need to manipulate, control, or destroy to feel strong. Real power is walking away from toxicity without looking back. Real power is healing in silence while they scream into the void. Real power is building a life so full, so peaceful, so aligned that their chaos can't even reach you anymore. That's what you did, and it broke their entire worldview because they realized in that moment that all their tactics, all their games, all their manipulation, it only works on people who still need something from them. Approval, closure, revenge, acknowledgement, anything. But you needed nothing, and that made you invincible. Now, we need to talk about the spiritual aspect of this, because whether you believe in energy, karma, universal justice, or whatever you want to call it, something bigger than all of you was watching this entire situation unfold. These people came at you with dark energy, with ill intentions, with genuine malice. And the universe saw that. Morgan went cold. The back of Cam's body pinked low. The universe saw someone being targeted for no reason other than their light, their authenticity, their refusal to play fake games. And the universe doesn't just let that slide. There's a cosmic balance, a spiritual ledger. And when people attack others for existing, for growing, for shining, that debt gets recorded. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to cast spells, send bad energy back, pray for their downfall, or wish harm on anyone. You just had to stay true to yourself, stay aligned with your path, stay focused on your growth, and let the universe handle the rest. And handle it did. Look at their lives now. Look at the patterns repeating. Look at the destruction they're causing themselves. Look at how every bridge they burn isolates them further. Look at how every lie they tell catches up with them eventually. Look at how every person they target eventually sees through them and walks away. They're creating their own prison, their own hell, their own karma. And you don't have to do a single thing except watch from a distance as they self-destruct. Because that's what always happens to people who build their identity on tearing others down. Eventually they run out of targets, run out of allies, run out of people willing to believe their stories, and they're left alone with the monster they've become. And that's a punishment far worse than anything you could have planned. Let's get deeper into why they're actually scared now. Because fear is a fascinating thing when you understand psychology. Fear isn't always loud. Fear isn't always obvious. Sometimes fear looks like obsession. Sometimes fear looks like hatred. Sometimes fear looks like trying to destroy someone before they can reveal your secrets, expose your lies, or surpass you completely. They fear you now because you represent everything they're not. You represent accountability. You represent growth. You represent the ability to be hurt and still choose healing over revenge. You represent authenticity in a world where they survive by wearing masks. You represent the possibility that someone can walk through hell and come out better instead of bitter, and that terrifies them because it exposes their excuses. If you can heal, why can't they? If you can grow, why are they still stuck? If you can walk away from toxicity, why do they keep creating? You're living proof that their lifestyle, their choices, their patterns are not inevitable, they're choices. And that makes them feel exposed, vulnerable, accountable. They can't hide behind the excuse that everyone is terrible, that life is cruel, that there's no point in being good because you exist as a contradiction to all of that. You're the evidence that they're wrong, and people hate being wrong more than they hate being hurt. So they hate you, or at least they tell themselves they do. But really, they're just scared that everything you represent is calling them to evolve, and evolution requires looking at yourself honestly, and they'd rather destroy you than face themselves. Here's the part they'll never admit, the part that eats at them in the quiet moments when they're alone with their thoughts. They miss you, not the version of you they tried to break, not the version of you they targeted, but the real you. The you that existed before they poisoned everything. They miss your energy. They miss the way you made them feel seen. They miss the authenticity you brought. They miss the potential of what could have been if they weren't so damaged, so toxic, so committed to destruction. They see you now, living your life, thriving without them. And somewhere deep down, they know they lost something irreplaceable, something they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to find in other people and never finding because it was unique to you. Because you were real in a way they'll never experience again. They'll cycle through person after person, relationship after relationship, friendship after friendship, trying to fill the void, but it won't work, because the void isn't about you being gone. The void is about them being fundamentally broken and unwilling to fix themselves. They'll blame everyone else. They'll say everyone leaves them. They'll paint themselves as victims of circumstance. But deep down, in the moments they can't lie to themselves, they know the truth. They destroy everything good that comes into their lives, and you were just another casualty of their self-sabotage. Except you refused to stay destroyed. You rebuilt yourself into something they can't touch, and now they have to live with that reality forever. Now let's address something crucial, something that separates you from them permanently and completely. You learned, you grew, you evolved. You took every painful lesson, every betrayal, every manipulation tactic, and you used it as education. You studied human psychology without even realizing it. You learned to spot red flags instantly. You learned to trust your instincts. You learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. The first time, not the 15th. You learned that closure is something you give yourself, not something you get from people who hurt you. You learned that some people are only in your life to teach you what you don't want, what you won't tolerate, what you deserve better than. You learned that walking away is sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, that silence speaks louder than arguments, that your peace is worth more than being right. You learned all of this while they learned nothing. They're still running the same programs, still playing the same games, still hurting people and wondering why everyone leaves, and still hurting people and wondering why everyone leaves.